Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you are all having a good day. Are you ready for new stories? I have 5 for you today. Let's go to the first one. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment.
I, 47, got divorced from my first wife when I was 29. We had 2 kids, and my folks loved them more than anything. My ex-wife wasn't happy with the lifestyle that I could provide. I wasn't making a lot of money, but we weren't in debt or anything. We had good cars, and we had just put a down payment on our first home that we would own. Her boss was rich. He was 47, and he could provide luxuries that were out of my reach. She left me for him. I still had to pay child support, but I guess I was lucky that I didn't pay spousal support. I had to work and I couldn't get custody. I got visitation, and my wife made it hard. The kids were young, and she manipulated them. If I had planned to take them to a local resort for our summer vacation, she would take them to Disneyland the week before. I would always come up short. Eventually, the kids refused to spend time with me. It went to court, and I basically had to accept that I couldn't force them to see me and my parents. I met my second wife, 33, at the dog park when I was 37, and she was 24. She had a son who was about the same age my son was the last time my parents got to see him. My parents accepted him right away. He loves them. My wife is like a daughter to them. It is what I always wanted for a life. We have 2 more kids now, 8, 5. My stepson is about to graduate next year. So, a few years ago, my dad sold his company. He is an engineer and had some patents that ended up being worth a fair bit of money. He paid off my house. He also made educational funds for my 3 kids. He figured the older ones were done with school and hadn't bothered to visit them in years, so they didn't need anything from him. Turns out, that was wrong. My ex-wife married a scam artist. He was rich, but he wasn't rich enough for the lifestyle she wanted. So he stole from his clients and then went to jail. My oldest kids are in a lot of debt. My ex is living with her parents. She recently tried to tell me that my parents needed to be fair with all their grandchildren. I told her it was their money to spend on the people they loved and who loved them back. She said that they were punishing her kids for her mistakes. I said that both of our kids were adults and hadn't made any effort to see me or my parents in over a decade. She said I'm being an a-hole for not convincing my parents to help her kids. Not the a-hole. Don't fall into your ex trap again. I understand kids being manipulated, but at the same time, your parents didn't have much choice with either of them visiting or even greeting on special occasions. I would want my near and dear to enjoy my fruits of labor rather than some distant family member. Not the a-hole. She made her bed, and she must lie on it. Kids are adults now. They could have made an effort to know you and your family. They didn't. She's only reaching out because Moneybags was money rags, and she realizes that what she could have had and hoping to still cash in. She has nothing to do with you and your family, but about how she can cash in. Not the a-hole. Your ex is asking you to ask for money from your parents on behalf of your estranged kids. Not the best at math, but I think there's at least 4 different levels of separation there that make this none of her business anyways. If your estranged kids asked your parents, that'd be a direct question. And the answer should be up to your parents then. Ex broke up with me a decade ago, 3 months before our child was born. Said I wasn't fit to be a father due to an addiction. I'd been in a wreck that caused severe spinal damage, pain, and formed a habit that, I'll admit, took me a lot longer to kick than I'm proud of. She was never in any way supportive of that particular subject, but her leaving me over it was out of the blue. Court said custody would be 50-50, and it has been since. In that decade, I've done okay. Remarried a wonderful woman who I've had 2 girls with and was promoted into a position with a 7-figure salary. My ex has not done well. She's remarried twice and was broken up with both times, filed bankruptcy, lives in what I can only describe as a crap-hole apartment. I make sure my son is well taken care of. My wife, girls, and I spend every moment we're legally entitled to spend with him, and we offer to include him in quite literally everything, which his mother frequently declines when it's on her time. My son and ex both know as well that if he needs anything, he can call and ask. I've sent food, clothing, etc. frequently, and several times put them both up in a hotel because their apartment was being fumigated or similar. Both my parents, my ex's parents, my sister, and of course my ex, feel I should be financially supporting my ex. Their reasoning is that my son stays with her half the time. She's the mother of my son. During those times he's with her, they're both living in squalor, and my son gets upset every time he has to go with his mother, who he started saying he hates as of late. When she tells him she won't feed him because it's expensive and to call me because I have money, it's no small wonder. So far as I'm aware, she can't afford to feed him. She's working 2 jobs. But she'd rather I pay expenses so she can afford expensive shoes in addition to the minimum payment on her maxed out credit cards. I've tried to get sole custody. The courts made it clear that short of offing several people, that's not happening. I've held my ground thus far, as I feel I've no responsibility for her, and I've no desire to support her using my son against me for her own financial gain, which is exactly what she's doing. My wife says she sees both sides. So am I the a-hole for not financially supporting my ex because it affects my son? Not the a-hole. Support your son, not your ex. Safe proof of everything she says and does that is neglectful of your children. Text messages, emails, etc., where she is saying anything like that. Hire a good attorney and bring her butt back to court again. You can even report to your son's school if his mother is neglecting him. They are obligated to report it. You clearly provide for your child and are a good parent. You can prove to the courts that she is unfit if you have sufficient documentation. You need to speak to an attorney. Reddit is not the place for this, but you are not the a-hole for not wanting to financially support her. It's only your job to financially support your kid. Not the a-hole. If your ex cannot support your child, then she should give up custody to you. She made her own choices that have resulted in her current living conditions. Keep on giving the child support that the court has mandated, and remind your son that when he reaches the appropriate age, he can choose for himself where he wants to live. And if your son feels like he's not being given the care or living environment he can thrive in, he should call CPS on his mother. I have a fairly unique name, which comes from Greek mythology. The first time I met my current daughter-in-law, she commented on how beautiful it is and asked a couple of questions about if people pronounce it right and if I like it. She has been with my son for 5 years, and she had mentioned a couple of times how much she loves my name. Besides my name, she doesn't like me very much. She is hyper-controlling and doesn't like that I won't restructure my entire family so she can have her way. She just has a lot of issues and always seems to be on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and it is exhausting. When she got pregnant, the first thing she did was give me a list of rules, and I just found it insulting that she didn't even wait and let things come up naturally. Also, there are many rules that I think she needs to hire a professional and not expect any help from me. We had a huge fight mid-pregnancy because I refused to buy any gifts because the list of rules about what to buy was insane. We didn't speak much for the duration of the pregnancy, so I was shocked when she named her daughter after me. Really, I just think she likes my name. I've only met my granddaughter once, and she hovered over me and made me uncomfortable the entire time. She pretty much told me I'm never going to be allowed to babysit, which is her right, but if I'm such a horrible person, why name the baby after me? Since it is a fairly uncommon name, people were asking about it, and they both claim they named her after me. So I commented on a picture that it's so flattering they named the baby after me, but surprising when I'm not actually allowed to have much of a relationship with the baby. She blocked me on all social media. Info. What are 3 examples of her rules? Why specifically did you say she needs professional help? The dumbest one was she said I couldn't wear a certain bathing suit if I was ever in the water with her child, because the top has too much excess fabric and she thinks the kid could suffocate. She gave me a list of colors and styles I can't buy. She wants me to switch out the toys in the playroom to toys she approves of, though my other granddaughter plays in there. She wants the child on a healthy diet and expects the rest of the family to change how they eat. Before she said I can't babysit, she said I could only babysit with my husband in the house in case I have to go to the bathroom. She takes the baby with her. I don't want to, because apparently this child can never be left alone. And when I said professional help, I meant a nanny, because I'm not dealing with this, not mental help. Not the a-hole. I would be exhausted just being around her daughter-in-law, always on the verge of having a breakdown, and then demanding someone to rearrange their family lives to her liking is a surefire way for someone to be disliked. I would like for OP to elaborate on some of the rules. Are they normal and rational rules, or are they completely out-pocket craziness? I don't blame OP for questioning why her daughter-in-law is naming her child after a person she claims to dislike. What rational human being names their child after someone they cannot stand? Everyone sucks here. I absolutely think your daughter-in-law is overbearing and verging on ridiculous. As a first-time mom, she may have developed postpartum anxiety, especially considering she is predisposed to anxiety. Your disdain for your daughter-in-law is palpable in your post. You said she was upset because you ran your family in a certain way, and you wouldn't let her have her way. I'm willing to bet your daughter-in-law isn't the only diva in your relationship. You sound, well, I don't think I want you as a mother-in-law. Also, Daphne is a super common name. You don't own it. Your daughter-in-law told you she liked it when you met. It's not surprising she picked that name. And to call her out on Facebook like that, well, I can understand why she doesn't want you to babysit. You clearly don't like her, and I'm sure she's well aware of your disdain. I wouldn't let a woman who held me in contempt keep my kids either. Why be so antagonistic with her? Do you want to have a relationship with your granddaughter? You don't have to kowtow to her, but to be so obviously antagonistic is just ruining any chance you have with your son's family. My ex and I divorced about 15 years ago, and we have shared custody of our daughter. In the divorce, she wanted our house, but I fought hard against it because it's been my family home for 3 generations before I inherited it. In the end, we came to a compromise that was signed off by the judge. Basically, she gets to live in the house rent-free until our daughter turns 18, then I get it back. I had to pay utilities, maintenance, and property taxes the entire time. In addition, she can't make any modification or upgrades to the house without my written permission. She's solely responsible for the cost, and the work has to be performed by an insured and legally licensed professional. I've been sending her move-out notices for months in anticipation of my daughter's 18th birthday, and recently that came to pass. The day after, I showed up to the house with a contractor because I wanted some work done before I moved back in. At first, she refused to let me in, until I reminded her that I'm the legal owner of the house. According to our divorce agreement signed by the judge, she's no longer allowed to be there, and I'll call the police if she doesn't let me in. She got the point and opened the door. I was surprised nothing was packed, and it didn't seem like she's moving at all. We were arguing as I walked through and inspected my house. She wanted extra time, and I told her to be out by the end of the week or I'll have her stuff thrown out. When I walked into the living room, I was shocked into silence. The living room was expanded by a wall being torn down and having the bedroom that was once there merged into it. She turned my 4-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom one. I know I didn't sign off on this, and from the looks of it, the work was probably done by her boyfriend and not a professional. I yelled at her and told her I'm going to sue her for everything she has. Then I left. She went crying to our daughter and my family, and now everyone is telling me to give her another month to find a place and not to sue her. My daughter is firmly on her mother's side and thinks I'm the a-hole for kicking her mother out a couple weeks before Christmas and suing her. This is why I'm here. I think I'm right, and legally I'm right, but my daughter's opinion of me matters to me. Am I the a-hole? Edit to answer common questions. 1. My daughter is a freshman in college, and I rent her an apartment near campus where she lives by herself. She has a room in my house, and I assume will have a room wherever her mother lives. 2. My ex fought for the house and had a chance of winning, even though we had shared custody because I make much more than her. I offered her the compromise, and she took it because her attorney told her it was a good deal, and there's an equal chance I could win, which would leave her without a house. 3. My relationship with my daughter is good. She didn't tell me about the renovation because early on, I told her I didn't want to talk or hear anything about her mother, unless it's something that's affecting her, daughter, negatively. My ex was dead to me, and I wanted to spend time with my daughter building new memories. Edit to answer more questions. 1. My daughter is a wonderful girl, and I couldn't ask for a better daughter. She has a big heart and cares about her mother. I've made it a point to never talk about her mother since the divorce, so I'm sure she doesn't fully understand our situation. I plan to talk to her. 2. I inherited the house during our marriage, and since we were still in the honeymoon phase, I placed her name on the deed. After that, I remortgaged the house twice, once to get a better rate, and once for money we needed. All of this led to my attorney advising I compromise. He said there's a real risk of losing the house, so I compromised. 15 years with no rent. Can you imagine what your life could be if you hadn't had to pay 15 years of rent while raising a child? That's $180,000 if we're taking $1,000 a month. And I'm not saying life with a kid after divorce was all sunshine and roses, but 15 years without rent is a shot at generational wealth. And all she did was break the ducking house. Not the a-hole. I don't know where you live and the worth of your house, but where I live, there's a huge price difference between a 3-bedroom house and a 4-bedroom one. Your ex's action caused you to lose tens, if not $100,000. Not the a-hole, and sue her. Not the a-hole. She is known for 15 years that when your daughter turned 18, she was to move. Her lack of planning is on her. It's absolutely ridiculous that she didn't have a plan to be out by the daughter's birthday. Background. My husband and I have a timeshare through a pretty nice hotel chain. Once a year, we get a week of their largest rooms at any location. These rooms usually are 2 to 3 bedrooms with a living room. Think of an apartment that's around 1,000 to 1,600 square feet. Earlier this month, my son got married to his now wife. My daughter-in-law and I have mostly gotten along up until this point. They dated for 2.5 years and lived together with their kids, both from previous relationships, for 2 of those years. My husband and I took my son, daughter-in-law, and their 2 kids on an all-expenses-paid vacation as a wedding gift. We paid for their airfare, food, and hotel room, and any activities they wanted to do. We took the kids and set them up in our timeshare and paid for my son and daughter-in-law to have another room so they could be alone at my daughter-in-law's request. As soon as my daughter-in-law saw how much bigger our timeshare was, it was 3 bedrooms. She asked if we could switch with her because it was her honeymoon, which it wasn't. We politely refused and thought that was that. The next day, the 6 of us were in the living room, and my daughter-in-law took me aside and told me, "We think that next year it would be great if just the 4 of us would use the timeshare so that we could bond as a family. It's so important for a blended family to bond." I looked my daughter-in-law right in her optic stems and said, "We will use this timeshare every year until the day we die. If we are ever unable to use our timeshare, our daughter, who is younger, will use it. She will inherit it when we die. If you had talked about this with my son, he would have told you all of this." To my son's credit, he did speak up and said he was aware of this agreement, and she should have talked to him. My daughter-in-law spent most of the rest of the trip in a bad mood, softly complaining that the timeshare should be split evenly between my son and daughter. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted? Not the a-hole. I'm not sure why your daughter-in-law is asking for upgrades. She's a choosing beggar. Not the a-hole. You reacted perfectly. You told her what was up, and that she should have talked to her spouse before even thinking of asking you this. She is not entitled to anything of yours, ever. If she wants a timeshare to bond in, then she should work for one herself. Not the a-hole. Your daughter-in-law is being a huge choosing beggar. You were kind enough to invite her on this nice family trip, but now she thinks she's entitled to your timeshare? She didn't even ask her partner, your son, about it, and just thinks she's entitled to it despite not paying for it? Seriously. If she wants her own timeshare, she can pay for her own timeshare. She is an adult, and you owe her nothing.